Hello viewers, you are welcome to today's book club. Here at Home of Talents, we have a reading club where we look through lots of literature. We are readers, we have a library, and one of the books we have been reading is Born to Win, From Bastardhood to Generalship, a book that has been written by Major General George Igumba. So come with me as we explore and go through this book with my friends. We are going to be discussing some really important things that are coming through our read. Thank you.
First and foremost, the book talks about General Igumba as he was born a bastard. As in bastard, I mean he was born when his parents weren't married. Actually, like the marriage, his mother and his father weren't legally married, and unfortunately the father had another wife. So General Igumba's mother gives him away at 6 months to his grandmother to take care of him because she did not have the finances and everything to keep up with his life as a kid. And you know, kids require so much, hospital bills, it was too much on her, and everything around his birth was a mess. He grows up with his grandmother. He goes through a lot in his childhood. And as the young generation, this like enables you to have hope for the future. It enables you to look ahead because, as the headline says, from bastardhood to generalship. It's not like a one-day thing. You just wake up the next morning and you're a general. It takes steps.
It's been a journey.
Exactly, a long journey, a hectic journey, as the book says. I just feel like he went through too much, and it helps us as the young generation to look forward to the future.
Well, General Igumba is a character. It really shows you that life, some big offices we see people are owning today, the responsibilities they have. Some of these men actually came from dust. They came from nothing. They had to work their way till they reached the top. Now, General Igumba, as a kid, all his life, he didn't get anything of a rich kid or a privileged kid in his young life. He was just a village kid who was abandoned by the mother, growing up with the grandmother, finding it so hard to go to school. So it shows you someone who was in a position never to think of going into any office at all. There was no hope of him reaching any office. If like someone would show you a picture of him in his early ages, he wasn't a general material. You wouldn't see any general in him. Every step you do it perfectly, it will lead you on another step. Because every step he got, you do it perfectly. Even when he had stopped schooling and he had to live with his big elder sister, he had to be a very humble boy. To get this chance to go to school, it wasn't so simple. But every step he got, every chance he got, he did it so perfectly, and it got him to the another level. Slowly by slowly, it was like a ladder until he reached where he was, until he became a general.
Thank you very much, Marvin, for sharing with us. That was a very deep reflection coming through this book. Kezia, earlier you were sharing with me something that touched you about how some of those earlier times that General Igumba had in his life as he went to school. What do you remember?
So I remember us talking about how he went to school as a poor person, like even the schooling itself wasn't good. They had to write down on the ground. They didn't have resources. They never had books or pencils. But still, even then, he made the most out of it. He did his best.
Yes, and it's amazing to see that a person can rise from that place of nothingness, of such a lowly stature, and then they become someone. And so from dust to grace. Thank you. Our dear viewers, we're now going to be taking a journey through Chapter 1 of this book by Major General Igumba. Chapter 1 says the roots. I'm going to request Tracy to read for us. Dadaiwe.
Dadaiwe.
W is not there, but that's how it is.
Okay, Dadaiwe.
Olirali.
Dadaiwe.
Olirali. It's a question.
Dadaiwe. Olirali.
put the expression.
Dada iwe olirali.
Again.
Dada iwe olirali. Dada iwe olirali. Loosely translated is grandmother, when will you be back? Grandmother, when will you be back? Whenever my sweet paternal grandmother Bwehanga, Huda, Miril, Rugwireboko, Mutesi, rest in peace, would travel away from home, either neither or far for different reasons, but mostly to attend funerals, I would cry from morning to evening. Oh, sorry. In those days, funerals would last for weeks on end. Unlike today, when you take few hours, maybe due to high frequency of death. Mirel, the sweetest, as I would later refer to her, and proudly so, was the matrimonial wife of my paternal grandfather, Chief Prince Yekosofati Geoffrey Lugwirebuko Omukulu Oba Omwami, rest in peace. His son Supreme Fabian Rugwerubuko was my father, whom grew up calling Omuzungu due to his unequaled mystery of his Queen's language, both in speech and writing. He was an alumnus of them famous Busoga College, Mwili, in the 1940s. It was one of the schools which were served for children of either royals, chiefs, or servants. My grandmother Muriel was the holy matrimonial wife in the monogamous household, sharing a husband with several co-wives. My grandfather was a local chief of the sub-county level, so maybe he was leading by example. At the time, local leaders like him had many wives, and who knows, he could even have had several concubines, just like the biblical King Solomon, who had 700 princesses and wives and 300 concubines. That we get in 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 3. By God's love, grace and mercy, I was born a bastard from Ginger Main Hospital on 15th May 1959. It was a Friday believed to be a day on which loving and giving people are born. Could be the reason why when I was born, I do so generously and abundantly, and also give generously. And in as much as when I hate to do so in depth, width and length. On the day I was born is when McDonald's opened its restaurant in San Bernardino, California, USA. It is also said that it was the day the Pope Innocent IV issued the papal bull Ad Estripanda, which authorizes but also limits the torture of the heretics in the medieval inquisitions. Was what a day it was.
Wow, thank you very much, Tracy. That was a good read. At least we have started our book. What comes through for you? What occurs to your mind when you heard Tracy reading? What came to your mind?
As I was reading, actually, chapter 1 says the roots. Now we are diving into General Igumba's roots, where he came from, his origin, the family. So I think as we go on with this chapter, we are going to know who he was, where he came from, his tribe. I found myself reading Lusoga. I really have never read Lusoga, but now because I'm reading this book, now I'm diving into his roots to know where he comes from.
And in fact, as he begins to write, he uses his language, and it gives it a rich African kind of taste.
Then you
reading.
can know, basically say the roots.
Exactly.
Already you're understanding where he comes from.
Exactly. And it's translated. So it gives it a lot of power. The introduction, like how he begins the chapter, is very, very powerful. And I almost laughed at the part where he said that his son Fabian was my father, whom we grew up calling Omzungu.
Omzungu, yeah.
Why? Because he spoke the Queen's language.
Yeah, he spoke the Queen's
language. Do you know
language.
how intriguing English was that time? Like very few people understood it. It was only heard being spoken by the white people, the colonialists. So if you were an African in the village and you knew it, you were like, for example, in my dad's village, my grandfather is one who could kind of speak some English words, and that made him a very important man on the village. In fact, he got a small radio to put the Queen's language, and when he tuned that radio, the village would come to listen, and they would put all their ears on the small.
But would they
radio.
understand it by that time?
They wouldn't understand the thing, but they were all, like their ears were on the radio, the Queen's language. So the air that was attached to the Queen's language, it's so funny. But I like how he brings it out. Have you picked anything from this chapter?
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. When you think about the topic of the chapter, the roots, and then you relate it with the voice of a child who is crying for their grandma from morning to evening, and he shows an attachment he really had with the grandma, the sweetest grandma, Dada Olirari, meaning this child was already abandoned within him, and he only had one person, the icon of his life. So to me that caught my attention, that his roots were really not good. Yes, to have only one person, like that person
who
attached to him
strongly.
Exactly.
And now she has to go away for a burial for weeks. And so he spent his day crying.
What is he going through?
Wondering.
Yes.
And you know how these days we have phones, you just dial grandma's phone and then you're hearing from them. But for him,
Back then,
he had to
no
wait
phones,
until
he had
grandma
to
comes
wait.
back.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Justin. Anyone else wants to share? Angie, let's hear from you.
I just want to talk about the relevance of the title.
Yeah.
I just feel like the title, Born to Win, as itself, becomes relevant in the first 2 pages of the book. Do you remember quite this part where he talks about the day he was born and how McDonald's launched one of its branches, exactly, and how one of the Pope's, like one of the Pope's doctrine, something was also initiated on the same day. I just feel like, you know how you can see a young child and then everything around their birth just, you know, like, there is something about that child, like as in a child who has been born, and on the same day McDonald's is launching a branch. I mean, the same day the Pope is launching something. I mean, you can tell there is something about the child. The child is destined for greatness, born to win. First, everything around his birth already gives us something about, it gives us like a glimpse into the future.
Into the winning.
Yeah, you can be like, you know, like how you can have your little brother and then there's just something about this child, like there's something, you can feel it. Yeah, so I just feel like the title is made relevant. Yeah, and also this kinda, it gives us like maybe a little bit of that he was destined for greatness. Like you could tell just by the circumstances around his birth that he was really going somewhere.
Thank you very much, Angie. That was very powerful, the way you related the title to some of the things that have been written here. Thank you very much, Marvin, Justin, Kezia, Tracy, and Angie. Thank you for making it so much to this book club. I think you can see how interesting this book is. Our dear viewers, those were the first 2 pages of our first chapter, The Roots. And you can see already we are diving into very interesting conversation. Join us as we go through this book. Catch you another time.